Hey guys, and welcome to this edition of Scruff's Garage. So today in the garage I have my 97 Jeep Wrangler, has the 4-liter inline 6. The larger project, I'm replacing the exhaust manifold. I have a cracked exhaust manifold. While I have all of that out of the way, I'm going to preemptively replace one of the motor mounts on this side. Actually, I'm going to replace both sides, but while I have access to this side has more stuff going on. It's a bit more difficult to get to when the intake manifold and the exhaust manifold are in place. So if you're doing a exhaust manifold, you might think about doing the motor mount as well, because I think it gives you some pretty good access here. But I thought this might be a good opportunity just to show you, since we have a clear view of what exactly you're up against. This is a pretty simple type of engine mount. On the right hand side, right, you've got a bolt that goes through there. There's a stud on the bottom, so that means on the bottom there's a nut, and then you've got the horizontal bolt that goes through the mount there. So pretty simple. We're going to start by taking off the nut on the bottom side, but obviously to get as we take this is holding up the motor, so support the bottom of the engine. Yeah, you can sort of see I got a block of wood under the oil pan. Want to be delicate with that. I do recommend a block of wood on your jack. That way you don't damage the oil pan. We're not trying to lift the vehicle with that. This is just to support the weight of the motor so that we can get the bolt out of the engine mount and swap it over. So I'm going to start from the bottom side of the vehicle. We'll take that nut out, and then we'll work on the bolt up top. And just so you can see, there's the nut on the bottom of the engine mount that we're going to take off. So the lower nut's taken off. Before we take out the mount completely, that second bolt, we're going to take out this horizontal bolt. It's an 18 millimeter. Normally you wouldn't be able to probably get an impact gun on that end of the nut. However, since I've got everything out of the way, that's what I'm going to use to speed up this process a little bit. And then we'll move on to taking out that bolt. All right, so I've got the nut off. Still some pressure on that. Floor jack a little bit to figure out. And we'll take out the other bolt. There we go. Got our bolt out. And there we go. Here's our old mount. So I've got the main horizontal bolt through, but my bracket's not lining up with the bolt hole here. So I need to, if I can give this some adjustment. Okay, so I took the cross bolt back out. That way I was able to get this bolt to line up. All right, so that bolt's in place, but it's not tight. Now we can go back and see if we can get this lined up. So we need to go up. There we go. Grab our 18 again and tighten this up. Okay, final torque spec on the bolt and the nut on the bottom. Those are at 38, and the horizontal bolt that goes through is 51 foot-pounds. So that's pretty straightforward. It's installed. I thought I'd show you over here. So this is the old mount, and this is the new mount, because I've still got one for the other side. So this old mount, visually not in that bad a shape. There was crack there, and you can see some fatigue cracks under there. But what's interesting is how much it had compressed this way. So if you look at from this angle, how much lower the cross bolt here would be versus on this side. It had lost, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch. So just because the motor mounts don't look completely shot visually doesn't mean they haven't compressed over time and hardened and begun to crack and that sort of thing. Okay, it's going to be the same thing on the passenger side. Create some space for yourself. You want to take the intake tube off. I've got a K&N that I just put on, but even with the factory air box, if you want to take that the lid and the intake tube off, that'll give you some space to work. Motor mount is the same on the passenger side, right? So we got a bolt that goes through this side. That's the guy you see right down there. We've got a couple of things a bit more in our way this time. We've got a couple of AC lines and some wiring that goes to the back of the alternator, but we should be able to work around this. So same setup, floor jack with a block of wood under the oil pan, just helping support the motor. So I'm going to go on the bottom side and take off the nut that'd be on the bottom of this, and then I can loosen the top side as well, and then I'll take out this cross bolt. Okay, so I took off the nut, like I said, for the lower mount. I'm going to go ahead and loosen the nut for this horizontal bolt before I take the bolt out on the top side, just to keep this from flopping around as I loosen that bolt. Okay, I've got that nut off. So now I'm going to take out the bolt on the top side. Let's see. Okay, so I finally got the motor mount out. This bolt really fought me coming out. Definitely haven't skipped over 45 minutes of me struggling. This bolt, it came out until it got sort of to the shoulder of the threaded section, and then seemed to get hung on the threads. It just fought me. I'd love to say I had some secret for getting this out. I just kept fighting with it, and eventually I got it out. But as far as the motor mount itself, same story as the other one we looked at. Honestly, it doesn't look that bad. I don't know if, a little cracking there on the bottom, but when you compare it to the new one, you can see it's lost maybe, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch of round height, maybe 1/2 inch. So we'll move on to installing this. Again, pretty straightforward. We'll drop it in, get things lined up, get the cross bolt through, and getting things tightened up. Okay, here's a look at it after it's installed. A couple of tips. That bolt and then the nut that goes on the stud from the bottom, put those in place, run them down, not tight, because you want to be able to move that motor mount around just a little bit. You don't want it flopping around, but you do want them in there. And then I would get that cross bolt through before you fully tighten them down. I had to kind of move this around just a bit. Used a couple of different pry bars to get a little leverage on this. And then you may have to go up or down with the motor just a pinch to get the angle right to get the bolt through the bracket and through the motor mount. Once you get that in, then you can go ahead and tighten up the bolts and the nut on the bottom, and then you can tighten the cross bolt as well. So, like most things, not difficult, just a little frustrating getting the right angles. Just kind of keep fighting with it, and then of course put your intake tube and that sort of thing back on. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to post questions down in the comments below. I'll answer anything that I can. As always, thanks for tuning in to this edition of Scruff's Garage. I'll see you next time.